Hello, everyone who's tuning back to the Vitality Hub podcast. I am Elena Kundro, and today I have Pauline Goossens with me, who's a hormone cycle specialist. And that's why I'm so excited to have her today, because as a woman, I think that's one of the most important things to understand is my cycle and how to live with that. And we're not taught any of that in school. And I only got introduced to that 6 years ago, even though I've been having my cycle for much longer than that. So that really speaks to how not widespread that information is. And I just want to spread the message about how to actually live in full vitality as a woman with our cycles. So Pauline, thank you for coming to this show.
Thank you so much for having me and to, allow us to spread this message and this mission to have cyclically aware women all over the world.
So to start with, if someone is tuning in and like, yeah, I've heard, my menstrual cycle, I have my bleed, I have my ovulation, how is it going to change my life? Like, why should I listen to this episode? What would you say to them? Like, why is it so important to know your cycle and to live with that?
Oh my gosh. It is the most essential thing you need to know as a woman. It is literally, your hormone cycle is your hormonal blueprint on how to live and how to live pain-free, PMS-free, like healthy, and to really understand your emotions, understand your thought patterns, understand how to work out in each phase of your cycle, understand what to eat and when. Like, it literally tells you how to be your best self. And so this is, the most essential thing that we need to know as women is how to live like a woman, because we live in a very patriarchal society. There's no doubt about it, but the 9 to 5 schedule is based off the male hormonal schedule of one day. And so we do have this societal pressure of, having to be productive every single day. And we can't do that as women. We have a month-long cycle. So this is why we need to take our power back and live life as nature designed us to.
I so believe in that, and I've seen a big difference in my own life when I started living with my cycle and not pushing myself in my luteal phase that I need to do and produce. And I just knew that when the ovulation comes, follicular phase comes, I will be able to produce because that's what my cycle is there for. But for those who are listening who don't have the ability to be like, hey boss, like, I'm in my luteal phase, I'm not going to be working that much this half of the month. Like, what do you have to say to them?
Well, it is the most creative time of your cycle and the most intuitive. So maybe if you can choose, if you have a project to work on, for example, then you can kind of manage your schedule or your project based on where you are in your cycle. So then you can do all your business meetings, all your mind mapping, and all the maybe even the selling of the product during ovulation. But then in your luteal phase, this is the time when it's good to be editing and good to reflect and to really focus on the details and to focus on the creative side. So maybe it's the design part of the project or the color combinations or the choosing the fonts or, whatever creativity that you can bring into your cycle or into your project.
Yeah, and also to be more gentle with yourself in those cycle phases where you can't be producing as much, and even though your work requires you to still be productive and show up at work, you can allow yourself to kind of have a bit of a slack because you know that you will catch up. And I think it's also that mindset, psychological, that you're not it takes off that self-judgment. Like, why am I so lazy? It's not that you're lazy, it's that you're supposed to be more chill, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're supposed to slow down. Yeah. And you can communicate that with your manager.
Yeah. And I'm also curious what brought you in this topic, because I think I've met you like 2 years ago and you were already so much in this topic. How many years have you been in here in the whole hormone cycle, and what brought you here? Like, what happened in your life that showed you this importance?
Yeah, so I've been working with women and cycles and hormone balancing for the last 7 years. Um, and how I really started is since a very young age, I wanted to be a doctor. My dad told me at a like when I was 8 years old that I was going to get breast cancer because his mother died of breast cancer at the age of 38, and so I need to be the healthiest person I can be. And so, as a young kid, whenever people ask you, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, for me, it was, well, I need to be the healthiest person I can be. So, what career, you know, is the healthiest person? And I thought it was a doctor because you go to a doctor for health advice. So, at the age of 15, I actually went to a clinic because I was having really debilitating cramps. I had cramps, period cramps in my womb, my lower back. The pain went all the way down my legs. I wasn't able to walk. I was just really like stuck in bed. And I was bleeding for 2 weeks. So I went to the doctor and was just like, I can't bleed for half my life. Like, this is just insane. I'm losing so much blood. I'm anemic. I'm so tired. I'm in pain. And the doctor told me, oh, you know what? Women don't need periods. It's for old time's sake. So since I wanted to be a doctor, I was praising this guy, and he gave me the pill, of course, because that's, whatever problem you have these days, they just give you hormonal birth control for acne, for cramps, for mood swings, for, a stomach ache. And then I took the pill and I was telling all my girlfriends, oh, science is amazing. Science knows better than we do. And everyone needs to be on the pill. We actually don't need to have a period. And later on, I did go on to study medicine. So I did the first 4 years of the medical route, taking anatomy and physiology, biology, organic chemistry. And in my 5th year, all we were learning about was what pill to give. And I remember raising my hand and asking the professor, wait, professor, why does this person have diabetes? And he just responded with, oh, you don't need to know that. You just need to know what pill to give. And I thought, yeah, this isn't health. Like, I want to know why somebody's sick. Why, like, how can we actually prevent getting sick? And how do we optimize health? And because this has been my dream since a very young girl. So I ended up quitting medical school and I went traveling the world because I loved traveling at the time, and I was teaching languages online, and so I was working remotely, and finally I made my way to Australia and I had a working holiday visa. I met an Australian boy. We were living on the beach together. And although I had just fallen in love with a new guy, I was working remotely. I was traveling the world. Like, this is such a dream life, for some of us. For me, it was at the time. But I still felt so disconnected inside and ungrateful and sad. And I was just like, why am I feeling this way? My life is so good. Why do I feel incomplete? So my boyfriend, after 6 months of being together, he told me, maybe you should come off the pill. And I had been on the pill for 10 years.
Wow.
And I thought, I think it's time. And I want to try to do everything as naturally as possible. And, this is one thing I'm not doing naturally. So I came off the pill and I went through a year of depression. I had no idea that coming off birth control was a whole other thing,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's insane. There's a whole other list of side effects when coming off birth control, especially now knowing this. But if you took hormonal birth control before the age of 19, you have a 220% higher chance of having depression when coming off.
And nobody talks about it.
And nobody talks about it. So I was just like, what the F is going on? I'm happy one day. I'm so sad the next day. I'm in the gardens, the botanical gardens. I'm going to the museum. I'm with the person I love. I'm doing the things I love to do, and I'm just crying for no reason. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And this went on for a year. I felt so bad. Bad for the people around me, bad for my relationship, bad for myself. Like I was literally almost suicidal, probably at some points. And on top of that, I was also losing all my hair. Like half my hair I lost. And so that on top of it was just like, confidence
Super
gone
stressful.
and super stressful. And thankfully, finally, one friend, actually my boyfriend at the time, his sister-in-law came up to me and she showed me an app. And she's like, Pauline, you know that there's these apps that show you have these hormone cycles with these, your moods change, you need different nutrients for each phase of your cycle. This is how you can exercise for each phase. And my mind was blown. I was just like, what? How did I take 4 years of medical studies and my
And not
dad's a
know
homeopath
this.
and not know this? And my dad's a homeopathic doctor. My mom's a woman. Yes, granted, I have 4 brothers, so I didn't really talk to them about it. But I have girlfriends. Like, how is this not the most common topic of conversation of like our moods and what we need in different phases of our cycle? And the medical student within me came back out, and I found my passion, my obsession, and I was just like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And at the time, there weren't many people, there weren't cycle coaches,
Yeah.
There was a listener um, who did the in the Flow, and Flow app was out already, but these things were really quite new. And there was no research on women either, not at all. Like still now to this day, over 90% of research is done on men. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of self-studying and observing, and really, I think, thanks to the obsession and the passion, it really made me dig deep into articles and books and just observing women and noticing these patterns. That's how my brain works, is like, oh, it's interesting. You said that the same time in your last cycle that you felt this
Yeah.
way about this person.
That's why
you know?
I've been using Flow app for 6 years now, and it really did a lot to help me understand, like, now I know when like the self-critical thoughts come of like, what am I even doing here with my business? Who's gonna want to work with me? I'm like, oh, makes total sense because I know this is the day of the cycle. But coming back to the pill and to other contraceptions, I've been under the impression that IUD, that's copper intrauterine device, is the most, how to say, least harmful. Like all the scientific data shows it does nothing to you. And a few years back, I remember in Bali there was one woman that had her fallopian tubes swollen or something, and she was in major like hospitalizations. I don't know if you remember that. And at the time I had IUD, and I was like, shit, actually, you know what? Even all the medical research, all the doctors say this has zero influence on your mood, on your body, on nothing. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't feel right to have something in my body, and I took it out. That's a year ago. I only had it for a year and a half, so it was very short testing. I didn't really see any major downsides of having it. Didn't really feel much. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not really affecting me, and it's quite okay. But now that I took it out, it's been a year, and my hormone and my cycle is still not regular. It's still very much like going on and out, and that's so disturbing. I'm like, not knowing the cycle, not actually understanding what's happening, and all the prolongations is like really devastating. And I'm curious what you have to say about that, because we only mentioned the pill, but what about the other? I mean, of course, the hormonal IUD is a different topic in and of itself, but yeah, what do you have to say about that?
So that person you're talking about is my best friend.
Yeah.
And she
I
was,
remember you were sharing something in the group.
yeah, she was, we were living together, and we're on the same property, and she just called me like super early in the morning. She's like, Pauline, come over. Like, I'm in so much pain. and she would roll over to one side and feel all these liquids like go from one side of her stomach to the other side, and then in so much pain. So I said, we need to get out this hormone, this copper IUD right now, like, and we went to the gynecologist, took it out immediately, and the gynecologist said, like, I think it's an appendicitis. You still need to go to an emergency room. So we went to the emergency room. I'm with her in the hospital all day, and they're testing her appendix, and like, yeah, it hurts a lot, and it's on the right side of her lower abdomen. But the pain started for me, like the pain started in the uterus, and that's what she says as well. And the doctors are like, no, and she has a swollen appendix. It's about to burst. It's an appendicitis. And I'm like, no, it's her womb. And finally, they went in for surgery to take out the appendix, and because it gets to a point where like I'm fighting for her womb, but the doctors are saying, even with the CT scan and everything, it says slightly swollen appendix, but that's not something to take out an organ for, in my opinion. But finally they went for it, and during surgery, they woke her up to show her a video of her fallopian tube squeezing pus out of her fallopian tube, her right fallopian tube. And they said, oh, actually, it's your fallopian tube that got infected, and we need to take out your fallopian tube now. So not only did they take out her appendix unnecessarily, but they also had to take out her right fallopian tube that was due to the copper IUD causing the infection. So
I forgot that part.
Yeah, crazy thing. So unfortunate. And even though she had the copper IUD for a couple of years already, but I had another client who had a copper IUD, and she was under 30. I think she was like 28, 27 years old, and she was having heart attacks. And she noticed that every time she had chocolate, she would have this like reaction, and chocolate would actually trigger her to have like a mini heart attack, to the point where she's had to go to the hospital 4 times. And she had the copper IUD, and it turns out that chocolate is high in copper as well. So she was having toxicity, just like too much copper in her body. So copper, what it does in your body, it actually prevents you from absorbing zinc, which is a really essential mineral for your immune system. So if you are with a copper IUD, you really want to supplement with zinc every single day. I mean, ideally, in my opinion, you go all natural and you don't have a foreign object that's, even though it's non-hormonal, it still affects your hormones.
What do you have to say? Sorry, it keeps a bit. I think there's a slight lag. That's why we keep overrunning each other. I just wanted to say, because the common consensus in the medical papers and everything is that it doesn't affect your hormones. It just prevents pregnancy. And I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Yeah, the copper IUD, what it does is it creates a chronic inflammation in your uterus, and prevents, and it demobilizes sperm to move. So first of all, just big red flag is that it chronically inflames your uterus. Like, why would you want that? That's still, and yes, medical articles and doctors, they're going to say, oh no, it's non-hormonal, it's fine, but just like, no, thank you. I do not want to have my uterus constantly inflamed, and that causes inflammation in the rest of the body too. So there's no doubt that it affects your hormones, because your hormones are affecting all 6 vital systems of your body: your brain, your metabolism, your immune system, your gut microbiome, your sexual reproductive system, and which one am I forgetting? Gut, brain, metabolism, immune system, gut microbiome, stress response system, and sexual reproductive system. So when your immune system is low because of the copper IUD, then your brain is not functioning well, then your metabolism also not functioning well, and copper binds with estrogen. So the more, this is a very common side effect of copper as well, is that you have heavier bleeds, especially within the first 6 months. Because copper, a lot of copper in your body, there's going to be more estrogen, and high estrogen equates to a heavier bleed. So,
and that also has all the other issues of estrogen dominance and stuff.
yes.
Okay, but have you seen that taking out copper IUD is like your body eases up into its normal cycle compared to the pill, for example? It should be much easier, right?
It is. It for sure is. But you still have to find balance, and that takes 3 months. So scientifically, it takes 3 months to balance your hormones, to balance out progesterone. And so that's living with your cycle and making sure that you're eating a balanced diet. I know this is something super controversial, but like, it's just so important that if you're vegan or vegetarian, that you need to supplement enough, because there's a lot of missing minerals and nutrients in the vegan and vegetarian diet. So you need to make sure you have enough zinc, especially because you need to kind of balance back out that copper with that zinc. Then you need more vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K. You need omega-3s that come from DHA, not from ALA. So there's different types of omega-3. So really,
well, I think everyone should. No, just on the DHA, I think everyone should have DHA and EPA supplements, because even if you are eating a ton of fish, you're likely not getting enough. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, and so for me, it's interesting that you're not having a regular cycle still a year later, but there's so many factors. I mean, the main thing that's going to affect your hormones is stress, but there are different types of stress. So there's physical stress. So are you overworking out? A lot of times athletes are, over-exercising, and they are having an irregular or missing cycle. The other one is digestive stress. So if you're having stimulants like coffee or black tea, even matcha, that's like stress to the body, digestive stress to the body, and destabilize blood sugar. And you really want to have stable blood sugar levels. And to have stable blood sugar levels, you want to start your day with a nice meal that's a quarter protein, a quarter fat, and half carbs. And those carbs are going to be like cooked vegetables. I always recommend to eat mostly cooked, like 80% cooked, 20% raw, and keeping that raw for more closer to your ovulation. And then finally, there's emotional stress. So are you in a relationship where it's really emotionally demanding, and you don't know how to handle your emotions, you're holding on to emotions, and you're not allowing yourself to process them and to let them go. So there's emotional stress. There's mental stress. So do you feel like you always have this to-do list on your mind, and always having to be productive, because again, society tells us you have to be super productive. And then there's environmental stress. And environmental stress means pesticides, plastics, even like what tools are you using? Are you using non-stick pans and pots? Like, that's a big source of hormone disruptors. Same with touching receipts. Receipts have a lot of BPAs in them. Even plastics that say BPA free still have plastics and sorts of like phthalates and other BPS and things like that. So it's just because BPA has went so big in the news that it's bad for us. So they changed the letters from BPA to BPS, but it still has as many hormone disrupting chemicals in it.
Yeah, that was a big shocker for me.
Yeah. Perfumes, anything that has fragrance, the word fragrance or perfume in it, is a hormone disruptor. So that's anything with, inside your soaps, your laundry detergents, dryer sheets, shampoo, conditioner, dish soap, like all those cleaning products, like all you need is some Castile soap, natural Castile soap, and white vinegar, and you're good.
Oh, that's hardcore.
And yeah, and then it was just coming back to simplicity and nature, like um, it's you are a part of nature, and nature is always trying to find balance, trying to find the right amount of soil, the right amount or nutrients from the soil, the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of hydration for you to be in balance. And if we are using so many synthetic products, even the clothing you're using, makeup has a lot of parabens, phthalates, and BPAs in them too. The average woman puts 172 chemicals on her body every single day. And that comes from lotions, makeup, sunscreen, hairspray, hair creams, and things like that. Like, it's just insane what what again society is telling us. Oh, here, buy this, buy that. Like, you need this for shinier hair. It's like, just use apple cider vinegar. It also makes your hair shiny, and it's natural. And you can also drink it and stabilize your blood sugars.
I love all that you shared. I'm like, I know it can be a little bit overwhelming, like, oh my God, like I need to go in the jungle and live there. But I want to come back also to the food and to share about the raw food, what you said about the ovulation. It was 9 years ago that I was raw vegan, and I actually didn't have my period for 2 years. And then I went to this workshop about women's cycle. And before that, I was listening to all the other raw vegan stuff. And they're like, if you don't have your period, it means that you're super healthy, you're so clean, you don't need to get rid of anything. And I was like, okay, maybe not having a period is okay. Gorillas don't really have their periods. And I was like, okay, that's not really right. And I started eating cooked foods. And within like 2-3 months, of course, I gained back like 10 kilos. Like, well, 10 kilos came in like 6 months more period. But like, I started gaining weight. I started eating cooked foods. I stopped intermittent fasting, and my period came back. So yeah, for sure. Women, don't starve yourselves. I just made a video also about a CGM, about glucose and also intermittent fasting, saying how it should be completely different for women, how we eat and how we fast, because all these studies on intermittent fasting is on men. And yeah, all the like skincare products and hair care products, everything that around us, it's also so important to take a look at actually what we are consuming. And for example, like the lipstick that I'm wearing right now, I was looking so much for where I can find something natural, and it's made of rose petals and castor oil and something like, these kind of things. And I'm like, that's so amazing. One day I want to create my own line with these natural substances. But yeah, that was fascinating, and so many factors that we have to take a look at the stressors in our lives. And for me, I really notice when I go to a higher intensity workout class, I'm no athlete. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just exercising for my mental health, my physical health. But if I go to a higher intensity workout class, which for others might not be such a high intensity workout class, in my luteal phase, my period gets delayed by a week. And this is exactly what happened right now. I went to a higher workout class, not thinking it's going to be high intensity, and my period is late again. And I'm like, my body became so sensitive to these kind of things. And I think because of the threshold is so low, anything else, like any additional stressor just tips me over. And for me, that is coming back to all of those stressors and a lot realigning from all the traveling, time zone shifting, to come back to that.
Yeah, that's another big one, is the time zone shifting, for sure. That's another physical stress. And injury is another one too. So if you get, have a bike accident and you break your leg, or even if you don't break your leg, but it was a physical stress to your body, and your body is like, hold up, I'm not ready to reproduce right now. So it puts reproduction on the back burner, and it's really just focusing on healing. So if you ever get sick, and this is why if you are tracking your cycle in an app, they always ask, like, how, did you sleep well or party last night? Don't put in your data if you didn't sleep well and partied and drank alcohol the night before, or took a flight or got sick, because it's going to affect your cycle in a way that it puts you in a fight or flight mode or survival mode, because that's the number one thing. The number one rule of a hormone cycle is to survive. And then once you survive, then you can reproduce, if you're healthy and you're not in starvation, like if you're a raw vegan. I remember hearing that story. I love that you brought it up. When people would ask me, Pauline, what do you think about, blood being a dirty thing, and something that detoxifies, and, really you shouldn't have a period because it means you're healthy. And the vital sign of being healthy is that you ovulate, and you don't bleed if you don't ovulate. You can also bleed without ovulating, but your ovulation is the most vital sign of health. And if you're not having enough nutrients, then you are not, by being raw vegan, then you are not nourishing your body. Your body does not have enough nutrients, and you are putting yourself in a survival mode. And of course, you're not ready to reproduce. So having a monthly regular cycle that's no difference, or has no more than 2 days of a difference from your last cycle, then that's between 26 and 32 days. That's a healthy cycle, a healthy regular cycle.
Amazing. So that's where we can now start talking about how actually optimizing for fertility is optimizing for your health. Because, so many women don't think about fertility because they don't want to get pregnant. But actually optimizing your fertility is optimizing your health, right? Because if you're in your optimal health, you should be fertile. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, like you say, your health is your fertility, and vice versa. So even if you're not wanting to have kids right now, you can use that creation energy, but instead of creating a baby, you're creating an idea baby. So you this is where you're taking this energy, and you're putting into your business, your relationships, your friendships, like anything you want it to put it to. But this is your way of having your purpose and serving, this is your dharma, this is your path. And how do we do that? So the best thing as well about optimizing your fertility, even if you're not trying to have kids, and even if you never want to have kids, is that you track your cycle, and you know when to prevent pregnancy as well. You know when you're ovulating, so that you don't have him ejaculate inside of you, the 5 days beforehand or the week beforehand, when you are in that fertile window, even though you're just fertile for 1 day during ovulation. But tracking your cycle is the most, it's the step one. Track your cycle. The day one of your bleed, your full bleed, not the couple days of spotting beforehand, but the full day of bleeding is day one of your cycle. And when I say cycle, it's a whole month-long cycle, not just the few days of bleeding. And so we need different nutrients, different mindsets, and different physical activities, and just energy. We have different energy levels. So the amount of energy you put into something as well, and emotional management tools, stress management tools, these are all going to be different for each of the 4 phases. So the 4 phases in a woman's cycle are menstruation, which is your inner winter, which should last about 3 to 6 days. You have a nice red bleed, no clots, and no pain either. If you're having pain, what I like to say is that pain stands for pay attention inside now. And it tells you to do exactly that. Look at yourself. What's out of balance in your life? Because your body is trying to communicate with you that it's trying to find balance, and you need to do something about it. So whether it's to stop smoking, stop drinking alcohol, stop being in your toxic relationship, stop eating packaged and processed foods, these are all things that are going to really help you have no PMS and no period pains either. And again, you don't have these things holding you back because you are in balance. When you balance your cycle, you balance your life, and that's just the basics of it.
I love that, and it's so sad to see now on internet. I see those period pain stimulators where they put it on their men, and this is what I have to experience every month, and I'm like, really? And those men are just crumbled with pain, and I'm like, Is that what women go through? Because I never really had painful periods, but some of my friends, they can't go anywhere out, or if they have their period starting that day and they didn't take ibuprofen like on time, then they're like, I'm out for the whole day. And that was always so shocking for me to hear. um so I know you have your own program where you take women through the cycle balance, so I'm sure you can't really share like everything because it's just impossible. But what tips would you give for those people? Because most of my friends, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they are pretty healthy, but they're still having those period pains or irregular periods. And yeah, I'm curious if you have any like something that you notice in your group programs that's mostly comes up. What's the key thing?
Um, so yeah, it's really okay. Where do I start? My group
I know
program,
it's hard. It's gonna be so much.
and like you say, I can't say everything about it because it's a 3 month program and it's
Yeah, it's
it's a
impossible.
weekly it's a weekly thing for 3 months. If I can say it in 5 minutes, then oh my god, that'd be so amazing, but I can't.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
impossible
just
to. But ideally, not ideally, it is a holistic program. So, yes, you might have heard that we need different nutrients, different mindsets, different workouts for each phase of your cycle. So, this is the first pillar of the first month. The first month of the program is really that practical stuff of understanding how to track your cycle, what to eat for each phase of your cycle, what your like mental and emotional patterns are, and how to work out for each phase of your cycle. But then month 2 and month 3 are there for you to continue embodying what you learned in month 1, and also learning more of the spiritual and energetic aspect of it, because your womb is such it tells you how to live this life and this earthly plane, right? So we are a part of nature, and nature is constantly trying to reproduce. And that's what our hormone cycle is trying to do every single month as well. We bleed, we go through our 4 phases, which I didn't finish before, but basically menstruation is inner winter, follicular is your inner spring, which lasts between 7 to 10 days. And that's when estrogen rises, you become more extroverted, less hungry. It's your muscle building phase. And then you reach ovulation, which is the star shining bright, full bloom moment of your cycle where you are healthy enough to create a baby or whatever it is you want to create and manifest in your life, where you want all the attention, you're the most extroverted, and you're the most symmetrical, the sexiest, most intelligent, strongest, healthiest woman alive, to basically choose any guy to sleep with you and make a baby with you. And then in your luteal phase, which is your inner autumn, are the 2 weeks between ovulation and your period. So to have a healthy luteal phase, you want at least 10 days of progesterone, and that's the dominating hormone in that phase, which means progestate, to induce the carrying of a child. And so for those 2 weeks before your period, basically your hormones think you're pregnant. Even if you didn't get fertilized, even if you didn't even sleep with anyone, your hormones are like crossing their fingers, please, 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 did I get pregnant? And so it's making progesterone just in case you did get fertilized, but then it realizes, oh, I didn't get fertilized, and the whole cycle starts all over again. But what's really important to know in the luteal phase is that you naturally have higher levels of stress. So everything you need to do is to become more introverted, and you feel naturally more introverted. And it's really a time to reduce stress. So instead of doing a high intensity workout, you're going to do like a gentle flow yoga class, and you're going to want to eat 200 to 300 calories more because you're getting your energy from food now, and your hormones think you're pregnant, so you need more food. You need to slow down in general and really reduce stress. Like, that's the number one thing. So in my program, it's really about embodying this cyclical living and understanding your mental, physical, digestive, emotional patterns, and realizing that your hormones are a character. They're your character in this life. It is your hormonal self, it is your ego, it is your identity. Because I can be like, oh, I'm Pauline, I studied medicine and I traveled all over the world and I did this and that, and now I'm a hormone coach, and it makes me look good, and that's my status, and that's how I can get someone like a mate who is of equal status or above for us to reproduce. And so this is your hormonal self. It's our ego of, being the healthiest, most intelligent, best versions of ourselves possible to have to reproduce the best generation and, have our seed continue going into this world of life. However, your hormonal self is not the only part of you. You have your higher self, and your higher self is your connection to the divine or source or the universe or God, whatever you want to call it. But it's this connection where you're like, well, maybe I don't want to have kids right now. I want to, my mission is to bring hormone cycle awareness into the world. This is my creation. This is how I built my business. It's really like, okay, how can I create this program in each phase of my cycle? And this is my path. This is my mission. My mission on this earth is not necessarily creating a baby. Like, I feel like really my even though I am pregnant now and I did conscious conception, prepared optimizing sperm and egg quality the 3 months before conceiving. And I really do want to have children, but that's my hormonal self. But my higher self is like, how am I of service? And what is my connection to source? And what is, what is the meaning of life? How can I feel the most divine love possible? And instead of having these emotions overcome me, how can I learn from these and come from a place of responding from my higher self versus reacting from my hormonal self that gets triggered from my inner child and things like that. So I did
not expect you to go there. That is, I love that. I work with IFS, internal family systems, and that's basically what we do, is learning how to step into your true self and seeing all those other parts as parts. And when they overtake us, learn to unblend and act from our true self, true essence, higher self, connecting to that. So it's very interesting that you brought that up, because it's not the first time. Whenever I'm studying even religion, the teachings, other modalities of therapy, it always comes back to that true self, that that core that we can live from, and that connection to the divine, that higher self. I'm just so amazed that you're including that in your program, because that's so important.
It is. It really is, because, and for me, the gateway is the womb. For every woman, it's how can we connect to the womb and realize that there's so much more, and to be, every single human came from the womb. Every single person on this earth, and even all the mammals, all the reptiles, came from a womb. The womb is a cosmic, sacred portal that, thanks to the union of divine love, created, life. And so that's what, the other parts of my program are, I teach really how to connect to this part and your higher purpose. And through that, I have Om Cycle Yoga. So Om Cycle is my brand. It means ovulatory menstrual cycle yoga. So your hormone glands are your chakras. And in Indian philosophy, they call it chakras, and in Western medicine they call it hormone glands, and you put them, you superimpose them, and they're in the same places. And so this is why as well yoga is scientifically proven to balance hormones. And so this is what I love about yoga, and I'm a registered yoga teacher as well, is that your chakras hold so much more of the energetic and the emotional aspect than Western medicine hormone gland science, So I love connecting the science to the spirituality, and knowing that certain poses are good for certain hormonal imbalances. And then we go into fertility awareness, of course, how to have natural birth control, tracking your cycle. I have many guest experts come onto the program as well. So there's a functional nutritionist, there's a doula. We go into pelvic floor health because up to 50% of women in their life end up having prolapse. Like their organs actually fall out. So it's
That's
really
after.
no, even before, even without being pregnant.
Oh, really? Because I always associated the prolapse with being pregnant. That's why I was like, I don't know about the whole pregnancy thing. Like my body seems to be collapsing. Like if I were to do that, that's like the fear. And most of the times when I talk to other women who are preparing to get pregnant, they're like, I'm really afraid how my body is going to respond. And okay, that's interesting that even without the pregnancy, they're having the prolapse because of the weakness.
Yeah. So it's really important to not only have you need a strong pelvic floor. And a strong doesn't mean tight, and these women are thinking like, oh, I need to do Kegels all the time. But really, you need to also learn how to relax your pelvic floor muscles. And so, yeah, we have a pelvic floor therapist who comes on and gave us a video for how to do, good pelvic floor training. Then we go into Chinese medicine and understanding yin and yang within the cycle. So estrogen is a yin hormone, progesterone is a yang hormone. And while your insides, during your follicular phase are becoming more feminine, more yin, what you need to do on the outside is more yang activities like planning ahead, business meetings, muscle building. That's the yang activities. Whereas in the luteal phase, progesterone is a yang hormone. It raises your temperature. You're creating a home inside your womb. But the activities you need to do on the outside to balance the inner yang is yin activities. So being more receptive, more listening, more surrendering, more in the flow, more creative, more intuitive. So we learn about Chinese medicine and herbs that you can take for each phase, and then we go into Ayurveda and emotional gynecology as well. So what emotions are getting manifested into gynecological problems? So whether you have endometriosis, for example, which is like you're overcrossing your boundaries, because literally the endometrial lining is overcrossing the uterine boundaries and it's sticking to other organs and causing a lot of pain. So there's
That's
a lot
so
of
interesting.
emotion.
The psychosomatic.
Yeah, exactly. And cysts, for example, and women who have PCOS, they're going to have, they're holding on to emotions. They're not allowing to let it go. So it's really, really important to bring in a holistic practice. And this is what this program is for, is that we really go through all the aspects, or as many aspects as I think are important, or at least the basics, to really have balanced hormones. Because you really do need to work on the spiritual, on the energetic, the emotional sides that science does not do. So like I said, we get into the inner child and we go into limiting beliefs as well. So that's what my program looks like.
That's beautiful. And if there was something that now the listeners are listening and they're like, you know what, I'm struggling, I'm having pain or irregularity, or I don't understand what's like. First step, of course, is tracking. And you keep mentioning apps. What apps do you use for tracking?
So my favorite app at the moment is Drip, because it is complete privacy free. I mean, it has complete privacy. It's just data for you. And I like to use it because I know my cycle so well. And so having an app where you're learning a lot of stuff as well, like I don't really use it that much. Although right now I'm using Flow for my pregnancy, which is really fun. And however, Drip for me, it's a woman-owned German company. It's free and it's just my data for me, and I get to put notes in it, track my cervical positioning, cervical mucus, and temperature, and for me, and add in notes. And for me, that's enough. It's very simple, it's easy. But some other good ones, I would say, Flow. Flow, it has pretty good privacy settings, I would say. And you can learn a lot from the app as well. But again, it's there's that like spiritual, energetic, and emotional aspect. There is
Well,
a that's missing.
yeah, well, I like that flow. It gives you the option because I was using natural cycles for a year to track my temperature, to track ovulation. So it was really nice to actually measure my temperature every morning and see how it changes. And yeah, it was interesting because before that, I didn't really pay attention to my temperature levels. And, where attention goes, that's where things become more known, more you gain more awareness. So that's beautiful. I'll check out Drip because now I don't like how natural cycles help lets me track other metrics. It doesn't give such good like visuals as Flow. So I went back to Flow, but then Flow doesn't really give me the graphs of the temperature. So I think I'll check out the
Mhm.
Drip and see how that goes.
One thing to note about apps, and this is why I like the simplicity of Drip, is because it really puts the responsibility on you. Because apps are not predictable and not, how do you say, confirming enough for when you're ovulating. So you cannot count or depend on an app for tracking your cycle. You really need to know your cycle. You really need to understand your cervical mucus and not depend on the app that says like, oh, your ovulation is coming in 3 days, but maybe something happened emotionally, or maybe you had a breakup, or you had uh, missing sleep, or anything can happen. And you tracking your cervical mucus is going to tell you if you're in your fertile window or not. And you also tracking from the past days or the past cycles, I mean, when you ovulated, like that is the most empowering thing, is to know when you ovulate. Because yes, everyone can track their period. Day one, I got my period, you have blood coming out, but tracking the cervical mucus, noticing that you have white, creamy white after your bleed, and then it gets gradually more clear. And that last day of clear, like a raw egg white mucus, is your day of ovulation, the last day, because you can even have like 3 to 4 days of this clear mucus. So that last day is going to be ovulation. And then in your luteal phase, it goes back to being creamy white. And your temperature will go up 2 days after ovulation. So this is why it's really important for you to know your cycle and to not depend on an app. Like you can use it for data tracking and keeping your data and seeing the graphs. It's really cool. But otherwise, you need to know your cycle more, and
Yeah.
it's so empowering.
Combining all of that actually, because
Yeah.
you will get the confirmation of your ovulation after the ovulation has completed because of the temperature rises and everything. But if you're tracking it for fertility purposes, then you'll already miss out that ovulation period if you're counting on temperature, right? Not just the mucus. Wow, so many things that we touched today, and I always like to include something practical for the listeners to take away. And you've mentioned so much about like even the yin and yang was very impactful in my own life, and then the like yoga, workouts, nutrition, mindset, beliefs. There's so much, and I'm wondering. I know we could go on for next like few hours about all of that, but because you've been doing this already for 7 years, what have you noticed is the biggest change maker for someone who's already pretty healthy, takes care of their health, to even more balance their hormones? Or maybe first things that come to mind where you want to share practical.
Yeah, I did have one student who she's so connected to nature, and she has her spiritual practice, and she eats organic, and for me, in my opinion, she's eating a good diet, and a hormonally balanced diet with meat and vegetables and no sugar, no processed foods and things like that. So um, for her, she had irregular cycles, and I think what really helped in general for all of the women is this sense of yin and yang. So for the first time in her life, she went from like having 34-day cycles to then a 26 to then a 32 to the, these irregular cycles, to having a consistent 28, 29-day cycle in tune with the moon and in the program. And this happens all the time. Even women who haven't had their periods for over a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they get their period within the first 3 months of the program. So you can see instant results just by understanding the yin and the yang of really slowing down and allowing yourself to slow down when you're in the luteal phase, and to really rest during your menstruation as much as possible. Even if you have a job and you're a waitress and you're always constantly like, on your feet and there's so much to do, but just try to rest as much as possible. When you do have that time off, like, go lay down. You need to be as yin as possible because your insides during menstruation are the most yang time of your cycle. So what you need to do on the outside is to be the most yin and to really do yin yoga, restorative yoga. And I think it's really because of this societal pressure that we always need to be on, doing stuff mentally, physically, emotionally, like all the things. And so really reducing stress and understanding this yin and yang aspect of having balance in your life. And yeah, thanks to that, my student, she ended up, or all the students, literally there's 100% success rate in the program just by understanding your cycle. So it's literally within 1 month, you see so many immediate results. And then that first month is, understanding what to eat, what nutrients you need for each phase, workouts, mindsets, and to really slow down before your period. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson in the Western world, that slowing down. And me as an active person, looking into all the like workouts and, specialists talking about muscle building. I remember a woman saying like, oh, now there's all this talk about, cycle syncing, but if you're going to work out only 2 weeks or 1 week in the whole month, how are you going to build any muscle? And I think that's that's how many of us think. And even I struggle to slow down, to actually not push myself, because I'm so I need to be active, I want to be healthy, and that health it's kind of like on it gives me the opposite result. If I'm just like, I'm going to work out to be happy, but then my body just gets stressed and I'm not healthy as a result. What do you have to say about the muscle building part? I'm curious of you can only lift weights when you're ovulating.
Yeah, I never said don't move in your luteal phase. So you really do still need to move every day of your cycle. Even on your bleed, I'm not telling you to like literally lay in bed, the 3 full days of your period, but just slow down, lower the intensity. So if you want to build muscle, because you're actually going to lose muscle mass if you over exercise in your luteal phase, because your body goes into this fight or flight mode of like, I'm potentially pregnant and you're over exercising. Why am I running away from a tiger, even though you're just running on a treadmill? But if you want to build muscle and you want to continue working out and being active, like, yes, be active, move your body every single day of your cycle, but you just need to change the intensity levels. So like on your period, I would say yin yoga and just stretch, really have this time to rest. And I just say like the first 3 days while you're bleeding. And then you'll start to gradually increase your energy output or your weightlifting and your exercises all the way up until ovulation. And yeah, incrementally add weight and challenge to yourself the closer you are to ovulation. But then in the luteal phase, you can still go to the gym and lift weights, but just lower the amount of weights. Like you don't need to continue adding
the max
challenge because yeah, exactly. Just lower the weights. You can do more repetition if you want, but just lower the weights. And you basically don't want to get yourself sweating too much. And even sauna, for example, a lot of people, it's all the rage to sauna and ice bath and whatnot. But the main point of the luteal phase is to reduce stress. So just move your body so that you're reducing stress, but not to the point of making your hormones and making your body put yourself in a fight or flight mode of survival, of like running away from a tiger, or, you know, yeah, you're turning on muscle wasting if you're over exercising. So you really, you still need your body, but just slow down and take it easy. However, another thing is like women aren't muscle building. When you think muscle building, it's a very masculine thing. Like, you know, again, it's a societal pressure that women need to look like men, and muscle building is a very masculine thing. So take, you know, unlearn, take that out of your mind. And women, naturally, we need more curves. We need more body fat. We need at least 20% body mass index. And women who are under that, like, they have irregular cycles and they have missing periods. And to get pregnant, you need ideally at least 24% body mass index, body fat. So we really need this yin substance in our bodies, and to accept that and to love it too. You know, I'm not saying be obese. I'm not saying be overweight.
You mean 24% body fat percentage, or 24 like BMI?
BMI.
Because but BMI doesn't really say much, because you can be very muscular and weigh, you know, heavier. But what about because I think the body fat percentage says more than the BMI.
Maybe it's the other way around. Again, I'm pregnant brain right now, so it might be the other way around. But I just know that it's the number 24 and that you need more fat.
Yeah, so probably it is about the body fat percentage. But yeah, I've noticed that with some of my friends who, and myself as well, when I was super lean, I needed to gain more fat to get my period back. Yeah. And whenever I drop below that number, my period is just gone. So I'm like, okay, my body is just meant to be in this body shape then, I guess. And I know girlfriends who are super lean and they still have very regular cycles, and for them, that's what it is about. Everybody has different set points of what they need. And also workouts. Like, in my mind, I work out so like lightly, and still for my body sometimes it's too much. So I have to really listen to my body at this stage in life, and there's no one size, you know, that fits everyone, because I can see other girlfriends lifting heavy and going full out, and they're still like thriving, and for them it's working. So yeah, I guess coming back to our own body wisdom is the answer.
And be inspired by the people who live a calm life and who aren't having hormonal imbalances. And I mean, everyone has hormonal imbalances. So, but you know, the erratic mood swings and the acne and the, you know, it's like or the missing periods, you know, are you going to learn from this type of person? Or, ideally what we want in life is like peace and love, right? We want to just be calm. We don't want to have much drama in our lives. And this is where the higher self comes in, and the hormonal self is taken care of, because you want to take care of your body. You want to take care of this character in this game of life. Of course, this is where the vitality and the optimal fertility and health is coming in. But also to realize that that higher self is, can I love myself in all my ways, you know, more than I have a little extra lump on or curve on my legs that doesn't look like that girl on Instagram and that ballet dancer, and, you know, and we just compare ourselves. But every single woman is uniquely beautiful. Their bodies are uniquely beautiful. We can be inspired by other women, but it doesn't mean we can be exactly like them. And yeah, the most important is to love yourself and to feel good within your body.
Yeah. And accepting all the bodily changes throughout the month, and the mind changes. And when you notice, like in my case, when I know that it's my luteal phase, and I notice that I'm more self-critical, then I have the practices to allow space for that not to overwhelm me, but to be, okay, this is, you know, apart, and to communicate with that, and also have a relationship with the period, with all the hormones. I love that you mentioned that, because for all my life I've been like, oh, the period is just ruining my life. We've been conditioned to just be like men, to hide that when you have your period, so nobody would know. And then you all, of course, and I had like a session where I was meeting with my period to just communicate with the bleed, and I heard that part of me say, like, you've been like shaming us and trying to get rid of us for so long. Like, now you want to be our friend, and that showed me like what kind of relationship I have with my period. I kind of want to get rid of it, and no wonder it's been, kind of tricky. But yeah, it's so many things come into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can really learn to love all phases of your cycle.
Yeah.
And, there's no shame. And, you'll be at the point of putting blood on your face because you love your blood so much, and you realize the medicinal benefits of the stem cells in your menstrual blood is healing your skin instead of
I've seen the trend. I've not really looked into it. I'm like, I don't know, I'm okay, but maybe.
It's very important, and it really makes your skin firm, and it heals any scars that you have like more quickly than anything else, because it has stem cells in it that people literally pay thousands of dollars. For example, if they have a shoulder injury, they buy fetal cells, from fetuses, which are the cells connected with that to have a new shoulder. We make this medicine every single month. And so that's what I looked forward to for my period. I'm like, yay, time to slow down and to relax and grant myself the like saying no, and to just, like FOMO goes away, and you're just, it's called JOMO, the joy of missing out. And you're just relaxing at home. You're doing whatever you want, and you have your blood on your face, and then you take off your face mask. So any of you want to try it, I know the very first time is like, oh God, that sounds gross. But first time I tried it, I put it on, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is weird. But, I'm going to try it. And then you're like, wow, this is so empowering. I have my blood, my menstrual blood on my face, and you realized your power of your womb that was literally about to create a baby, and now it's on your face. This like liquid creation force is on your face, and it's healing. And so you have, because we tend to get poofier in our skin and our body during menstruation. So then you put your blood on your face, you let it dry. It takes just a couple minutes, and you can leave it on for as long as you want. But after a bit, I leave it on for sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes an hour, depends. And then I wash it off, and your skin is so soft and firm afterwards. And then you're like, I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. And
you're
then
tempting
the next try it. And honestly, everyone who has tried it that I know has continued to do it, because it's really empowering, and it feels really good. And you have this new relationship with your blood of like, why did I ever think it was gross? Why it's a part of me, and it's such a sacred, a sacred part of me. And why did I say it was gross? This is so beautiful. It's medicinal, it's sacred, and it's powerful.
But do you collect it in a menstrual cup, or?
Yeah, you can collect it in a menstrual cup. You can also just, put your clean fingers in your sacred portal and take some out and put it on. So, yeah.
Cool.
Go straight to the source.
Amazing. I wanted to say something, but it went away somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Well, exciting. So slowing down is the top, I guess, takeaway, and really balancing that yin yang, nurturing ourselves. Oh, I remember what it was, because you kept saying during your cycle to slow down, to like during the bleed, to really take it rest. And for some reason, for me, it's always before the bleed. I really need to slow down. But the first day of my bleed, I'm like, I want to do things. Like, I already feel so much energy, and I want to do things. And And I talked to other hormone specialists, and they're like, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess. And I'm curious what you have to say about that. That it
Yeah,
might be
it is interesting for sure. Because it is when all your hormones are the lowest, but it could be such a release for you of like, oh my gosh, finally I got my bleed, and it's a release, so you feel lighter already. Um, but sometimes, yeah, I have heard it a couple of times where women feel like they have more energy, but try, and maybe this can be um, why you're having some irregularities with your cycle, is that you're actually using that energy during your bleed. And the really like good thing to do is to rest more during your bleed, because then you'll have that energy for the rest of your cycle. So this could be something that you can try, is to just um or put that energy into like creating art, or not physical energy, but really like rest your body, and you can bring that creativity into a different channel,
yeah.
Because during your bleed on an energetic level is the time to plant seeds, whereas in ovulation it's the time to manifest. It's the yang energy during your bleed is the planting the seeds. So this is where you set intention. Yeah, you set your intentions, and then during ovulation, you're calling in what you want, how your life, what you want in your life, and yeah, your manifestations.
That's beautiful. It was so lovely to talk to you, Pauline. I'm sure women can find so much more by following you. Where's the best place? I guess Instagram or your website. I will put the links in the show notes. And any last words? Oh, actually, I have one question I ask every guest. That is, what is vitality for you?
Fertility. It's fertility. It's life, it's womb power. Fertility. Yeah.
Amazing. I absolutely love that. It was such a pleasure to listen to you, and what a holistic view about health you're bringing to the world. And it's so much more than just the cycle. Because at first, when I met you in the women's circle, and you said that you're doing cycle, balancing hormones, and I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I already live by my cycle, exercise, sleep, according to my cycle phases, but it's so much more than just that. It's also the spiritual and emotional aspect. So yeah. It's really good. I'm actually tempted to sign up for the program. I will check it out later. But yeah, thank you so much for bringing your knowledge and your expertise here. And now that you're pregnant, I'm sure there's going to be even like another depth of pregnancy and how to balance that, because I've heard as well from my friends so many challenges that are going in their pregnancy regarding hormones. So yes, it's amazing. And yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, the best ways to contact me are through Instagram, Pauline Giselle. You'll put it in the show notes. And otherwise, balanceyourcycle.com is where you can find my my 3-month online program that you can start anytime, and yeah, have some personal amazing transformation. So thank you so much for me. Thank you for listening, for all of you, and yeah, much love. Give some love to your womb too.
Yes, that's very important. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.